He scoffed at me, so I got him fired and sent back to his country. Posted by Throwaway 2021125011. If you like these stories and want to see more, please like and subscribe. So let me preface this by saying I do feel somewhat bad about the events that transpired, but it would be eating my conscience to say I didn't do it on purpose because I did. I started my first full-time job when I was 20, fresh off college and ready to take on the world. I resided in a Middle Eastern country, where people got brought in frequently by employers, and one mistake could cost them everything. I was outside this because I was a resident of the place despite not being from there. Anyways, when I first started, I got along very well with my coworkers despite the fact that he came off as a lot of bad things for me. We tried hanging out, but the more I got to know him, the more disgusted I became. He was sexist, a purist of his religion, where he believed the execution of certain people should be allowed, and he was extremely homophobic. But nonetheless, I tried making friends with him because I was open to anything. In our office, we have portable Wi-Fi that he took with him every day, free internet, and I never commented on this because I have my own. I can afford it and so can he. More on this later. The closer I got to him, the more he opened up, but in the worst ways. He would send me lewd images while we're in the office of women, talk about drug use, and sometimes disappear from work for hours on end while I manned the office. As I said, I was 20, I was still young and naive, and I tried my best to seem calm and friendly. I wanted to make an impression. This man, however, was the opposite. He was several years older than me and acted like he was above me through every step. But I ignored it because I wanted to be civil. Sometimes I would help him with his work until eventually, his work became mine. He would just expect me to do it without even lending a hand. I didn't say anything, and I just did it. His missing from the office became more frequent. Sometimes he would only be at work for a measly 2 hours out of 9 hours, popping in and out, and the office manager is too chicken crap to say anything to the general manager. Then there's the lateness, where I would come in on time every day, and he'd come an hour late. Still, I kept my mouth shut. It escalated to him adjusting attendance records, so it seems like he's not absent, even though his absences were frequent. Unfortunately, he was put in charge of that too. I remained quiet throughout all of this, remained civil until finally, I spoke to the general manager about pursuing a different line of work. I was always into graphic design, and they needed to get some work done, so I offered to do it. But during this time, I couldn't afford many things anymore because I had to help pay for bills for my parents, so I usually just walked to work back and forth every day and limited my eating to once a day, meaning the Wi-Fi was no longer something I could afford. So, as an agreement, I could take the office Wi-Fi with me and work on designs from home. However, my coworker didn't agree to this and pretty much attacked me with a barrage of insults. He scoffed at the fact that I needed the Wi-Fi to do design work and said I was a joke. I've suppressed the majority of what the conversation held, but it went something like this. Me, I just need it tonight, you can have the Wi-Fi tomorrow. Him, why? It's not yours. Me, I need to do some design work. Him, yeah, me too. I need to do that too. So, leave it here. I couldn't remember much of what else he said, but there was a scoff after he said that. And he made fun that my designs sucked and that I should just stop while I'm ahead. My blood boiled, and I reached a point of no return. I immediately phoned the office manager and talked about the situation and how if I don't get the Wi-Fi, I'll complain to the general manager who did, in fact, give me his blessing, unlike this turd. He immediately called my coworker and told him to give me the Wi-Fi, which he did, and that was that. Except, I'm a petty person, and I'm not about to let some a-hole get off with a slap on the wrist. The next day, I went to the head office and had a meeting with the general manager. I spoke to him about all the misconducts this guy had, how he's always late, never in the office, changes his absences, steals money sometimes, etc. I spilt my heart out on all his wrongdoings, showing the messages and photos I was sent during the shift that I never asked for and how I'm doing all of his work. It escalated to a point where he got brought into the main office for a meeting, where I proceeded to berate him in front of the manager, and he could only try to defend himself, but I was prepared. It turns out the office manager never even spoke to the general manager about his misconduct. Afterwards, he was brought back to the office, having been yelled at by both the general manager and me. And I could say that's where it ends, except it's not. After he left, the general manager realized if I had been doing all the work, then why didn't I say anything? I responded that I was simply there to work and to help. However, with what just happened, and the fact that this guy was getting paid more than me, I've decided that if he's here, then I won't be staying in the company. I gave him a choice, me or this guy. The answer was obvious because, by the next day, he was handed a termination letter and another letter that states he's been booked a ticket and he has to head back to his home country within a month, and he's barred from entering the country for several years due to his public misconduct that was reported by a certain someone to the local authorities. I could say that's the end, but okay, this is the last one, I swear. See, he had a girlfriend back home, a fiancée more like whom he has been cheating on. Funny enough, he added me on Facebook when we first met, and she proceeded to add me too because he talks about me to her. Well, our messages weren't just inappropriate, they showed details of him cheating on her, with me questioning him if that's a good idea. Every screenshot was sent. All the photos of the women he's been with, sent. She was livid, and I kept apologizing for keeping her in the dark, but that I thought she deserved to know at least. I haven't spoken to her since, but judging from the fact that her Facebook status no longer states she's engaged to him, it is enough of a confirmation. I sent him one last thing before blocking him on every social media we've been connected in: "You deserve this, craphead." It's been several months since then, and I'm thriving at work. I got a raise, I have better coworkers, and I'm getting a promotion. As for him, well, he's out there somewhere in the world. Who knows, and who cares, right? We're no longer in the same country, so whatever else happens to him no longer phases me. Though, he did once send me a photo of his fake Italian ID because he was planning on illegally migrating there next year. I'm on the fence if I should send it to the authorities in Italy or not. Just as a precaution, I might considering migrating there at some point. And now for the top comments. I should probably elaborate that this happened over a span of 3 years, not just when I was 20. I'm 23 now. The revenge happened a few months ago only. I worked with him during that time, and I was in the wrong for enabling him a lot, but I did give him a lot of chances, which he fracked up for all of them. Insulting the job I wanted to do was just a catalyst because I've been working hard to shift from my position into that. As for the ID, I could escalate things further, but with everything I've been given since he left, I don't want to tempt fate any more than I have. Things are good now, and my new coworkers are great. I have no complaints now. This was the first time I actually set out to destroy someone, and I don't intend to do it again, unless I have to, of course. As for the office manager, he got sacked like 2 months ago. He was deemed incapable, so they brought in a new manager to handle the place. Don't feel bad. Credits to you that you do, but in this case, he absolutely deserved it. Consider how he became like this. There's probably a myriad of causes, and some consider bystanders to be one of them. People like this get by and think it's okay because of nice, focused people like you who weren't there for the drama in the first place. Speaking up is the right thing to do. It might be too late for their personal development, honestly, it's too considerate to care at this point, but they have to understand the difference between right and wrong, especially if it means getting disciplined, and even if repercussions are heavy, you reap what you sow. Wow! When I came here, I was expecting some sort of overreaction to a relatively small thing. What I got was a normal person having the integrity to show a crapbag's misconduct, betrayal, and apathy to the people who actually needed to know. This isn't revenge. This is honesty, and sometimes it hurts people who've done the wrong thing because they have to take responsibility for their actions when they're not ready or willing to do it. And you absolutely should show it to Italian authorities. It's likely a crime. And now for our next story. Loan Shark, posted by Act 1308. This is the story of someone I used to know. I posted it first in stories about Kevin, so we'll call him Kevin. He needed a place to stay, and my mate needed someone to help pay the rent, so he moved in. Apart from a few minor dietary habits, such as walking around the house drinking chocolate milk from a 2 liters bottle and not putting it back in the fridge as the sour smell slowly grows. It seemed to be fine. In the meantime, he wasn't getting what he considered an adequate wage from taxi driving, which is fair, so he got a job at a bakery. But then he decided to go the whole hog and started gambling online. He had a system, you see. But the system still needed refining a lot. He was shoveling money into it and still not getting a return. But to ask him, he was just a few days away from getting the big jackpot. But he didn't have the money to make it work. So he borrowed from a loan shark. We didn't know about this part. So he lost that money too, didn't tell anyone. I had no way of paying it back. I went to my mate and said, "Oh, I might be moving out in the next few weeks." My mate said, "Sure." It wasn't a big deal, and he figured he'd be able to just tighten his belt a little. The next morning, after my mate went to work, Kevin went around to the power and phone companies and had everything cut off and got the bond for each of them back. Then he grabbed his pre-packed bags and vanished down south. I'm guessing he'd been getting "Where's my money" from the loan shark. My mate gets home, and everything's turned off. Everything in the fridge is either spoiled or well on the way there. He has to run around, get everything reconnected, restock the fridge, and cover rent that month. Not a happy camper. So then, a few days later, he gets a knock on the door. "Are you Kevin?" These are big guys, wearing white shirts with ties. Very polite, but they're ripped as feck, and he can see the tats through the white material. He's fully aware of who and what they are, and he's able to start making a guess as to why they're there. He invites them in, proves that he's not Kevin, then shows them documentation of what Kevin pulled on him. They're sympathetic, and on the way out, one of them gives him a card. "If you ever find out where he's gone, give us a call." He puts the card on the fridge. A few months later, Kevin calls from where he's vanished to, asking for his share of the rental bond. Never mind that he never put any money into it in the first place. So my mate says, "Sure. Where can I mail it to?" Kevin rattles off an address. "No worries. It'll be on your doorstep before you know it." My mate hangs up, takes the card off the fridge, and makes a call. "So, you wanted to know where Kevin was?" That Christmas, he got a card from the loan shark with $500 in it. And now for the top comments. The loan shark gave him a Christmas card. I'm screaming. Bang. Now that is nuclear. Sweet. Baby. Jesus. That is beautiful. What's your say on this?